Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody here to our show this evening. Folks, we hope you're here for the right reason. This is Friday, January 31st, 2025. This is a program where on Fridays we talk about emergency preparedness, and that's exactly what we plan on doing tonight. We're going to talk about emergency preparedness for all kinds of disasters or all kinds of events. I want everybody to be here for the right reason and know exactly what we're talking about, okay? The first thing we're going to talk about tonight is what happened in Washington, D.C. this past week, okay? Just a few days ago, we had a major disaster hit Washington, D.C. A helicopter pilot flew his helicopter into the right rear side of a regional aircraft out of Wichita, Kansas. That has resulted in a major disaster. A total of 67 people have been killed. 67 people have been killed. What else is going on? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about preparedness of all kinds. We're going to be talking about earthquakes. We're going to be talking about a major earthquake over in the area of Peru and northern Chile. Okay? That's where we're going to begin this talk this evening. I'm going to go over to the USGS map and show you where that earthquake has occurred. Actually, it's not in Peru, it's in Ecuador. Okay, there have been two earthquakes since, two aftershocks since that earthquake hit. Let me bring this earthquake map up so I can show you. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you is what USGS is showing us. Okay, right here, right there. This earthquake is over in Ecuador. Okay, USGS is showing this as a 5.4 earthquake, a 5.4 large earthquake. It first came out as a 7.4, a 7.4 major earthquake here in Peru. Let me show you the events as they've happened. Okay, this major earthquake right here, right there. They're showing as a 5.7 earthquake. It came out as a 7.4 major quake. We've had three aftershocks since then. This is a 3.4 near Napo, Ecuador. This earthquake right here is a 3.5. We also have another one here. This is a 4.4 earthquake. Okay? USGS is not even showing that. The EMSC map is. Three aftershocks from this earthquake. Now, while they may have been wrong as a 7.4, this is still a very, very large earthquake. Okay? This is a 5.7 at least, a very large earthquake. Okay? This is in the Andes Mountains of Ecuador. Okay? Also, let me back this out. Okay? Look at the volcanoes in this area. Look at the volcanoes all throughout this area. South of this earthquake, to the west of this earthquake, and to the north of this earthquake in the Andes Mountains. Major volcanoes are there. Now, with that said, we have two volcanoes in Ecuador that have been erupting. Sangay volcano and Reventador volcano. Both of those have recently been erupting, even up into, including 22,000 feet high. Okay? Sangay and Reventador volcanoes in Ecuador have been erupting. This may have something to do with that. I'm not saying necessarily that it does, but it may have something to do with that. Now, given that, there are other earthquakes also that we want to talk about real briefly. We're not going to spend a great deal of time talking about it, but I want to show you this. Okay, look at this. Let me back this up. Look at all the earthquakes in Central America or South America. There are over 25 earthquakes in South America. USGS is not showing that at all. Not one little bit. USBS is showing 2 earthquakes out of 25 that have hit. Also, over here in the mid-central Atlantic Ocean. Let me show you this earthquake here. This happened earlier, a long time earlier. Okay, let me show you it over on the EMSC map. This is a 5.5 earthquake. This is also 87 kilometers deep. This is still a very shallow quake over here in the central mid-Atlantic. Again, I need to emphasize that the Atlantic plate is expanding from the center. Okay? The Atlantic plate is pushing Africa and Europe in an easterly direction. And at the same time, the mid-Atlantic plate is also pushing Greenland, North America, and South America in a south-southwesterly direction, causing earthquakes. Again, over here in South America, we have 25 plus earthquakes here today. There's 20 plus earthquakes in Central America. And also, look over here in Mexico. Look over here in Mexico. 20 plus earthquakes here in southern Mexico. That's a big deal. USGS is only showing 1 earthquake, 1 lousy earthquake over here in Central South America. I'm sorry. Right there. They're only showing 1 earthquake in South America or Central America, and the EMSC is showing 20 plus. Okay, this shows you where the USGS loyalty lies. It doesn't. It doesn't. Okay? The USGS is only showing so many earthquakes over here in the United States. Look at this. There's even more than that. Okay? It's appalling what our own agency is not showing. Now, I'm going to go over reality here. First off, I'm going to start over here in the southern part of the Cascadia subduction zone, right here, over on the western side of the Gorda Escarpment. This is a 3.3 earthquake, a small 3.3 earthquake. This is approximately 155 miles from the northern coast of Northern California. Also, over here on the Gorda Escarpment, near the coastline, just west of the Cascadia subduction zone. Okay, right here. Okay, this is a 2.76 earthquake. A 2.76 earthquake. This is a 2.9. Okay, 2.93.0, I might say, because we don't trust the agencies in giving us accurate information. A 2.9 could actually be a 3.0 earthquake. Okay, well, is this earthquake right there? This is a 2.76. Also in the southern Cascadia subduction zone. This is a southern Cascadia subduction zone. Now, I'm going to show you this earthquake right here. This is in Hayfork, California. Now, while this is just east and north of the Cascadia subduction zone, we're going to still keep an eye on this, okay? This is a 2.4 minor earthquake, a mid-range 2.4 minor earthquake, okay? Now, just briefly for kicks and giggles, right here, okay? This is the geyser's subduction area, or not subduction, this is the geyser's geothermal area. What is the geyser geothermal area? Right here, guys, I want to point this out. This is Clear Lake Volcano. This whole area is a Clear Lake Volcano. You notice we have 40 plus earthquakes here, probably closer to 60 earthquakes in this area. in the geysers area. We haven't had this many earthquakes in the geysers area in recent history. I want to emphasize that. This is the geysers geothermal area, where men have drilled into the upper magma chambers of this volcano to obtain steam to generate electricity down here in the geysers geothermal area. Again, let me go into this area and I want to show you what's going on. There, as you can see, there are a lot of earthquakes. Let's go right here. Okay, I showed you this yesterday. Look at the number of turbines here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 12 turbines in this facility here. Again, over here, okay, right here. These are the drill points to obtain steam from the volcano. Okay, there are many, many drill points all over the geysers area obtaining steam from the volcano. Then, as you can see, there's pipelines. Pipelines running back to facilities. Okay? Pipelines running back to facilities over here. That's how they get the steam over to the turbines to generate electricity for 4 energy conglomerates, one of them being Pacific Gas and Electric, and the other being, well, one of the others out of the 4 is Rocky Mountain Power in Utah. Okay? But let me back out here again. I want you to see the earthquakes here. There's probably 60 earthquakes here in the geysers area today. This is the most earthquakes I've ever seen here. I want to emphasize that. This is the most earthquakes I have ever seen in the geysers area. Does that mean anything? I'm not sure. Okay? I've never seen it happen before. I've seen 20 and 30, 35, maybe 40. But this is over that. This is probably 60 earthquakes just right here. Now, these earthquakes are not huge. They're not huge. For example, right here. This is a 0.84 microquake. Well, this earthquake right here is a 1.14 tremor. Most of these are just that, microquakes and tremors. However, there are some earthquakes, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show it to you. This is a 1.96 tremor. It could be termed a 2.0 earthquake because, again, we can't trust the agencies because they're constantly downgrading the quakes to the nearest 0.9, i.e. we talk about the 0.9 society. Okay, this could just as easily be a 2.0 earthquake, minor earthquake. This is a 0.98 microquake. This is a 1.04 tremor. This is a 0.29 microquake. This is a 1.88 tremor. But I showed you earthquakes here the other day where we had a 2.4 and a 2.8 here in the geysers area. Rarely do we ever have larger than that. Yes, we've had 3.0 and 3.5, and yes, we've even had 4.5 earthquakes here in the geysers area. I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, there have been larger earthquakes here in the geysers area before. It's very possible it could happen again in the geysers area here in California. Let's drop down here to the Bay Area. Okay, I want to show you this. These 3 earthquakes here are on the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault. Let's go back up here. Okay? The San Andreas Fault starts right here at the Cascadia subduction zone. This is the triple junction right here. Okay? The Cascadia subduction zone runs from here all the way north to Haida Gwaii, or what they call Queen Charlotte Island, British Columbia. Runs all the way down here, approximately 800 miles. Okay? The Cascadia subduction zone, in fact, let me back up. Okay? This is Haida Gwaii right here, Queen Charlotte Island. The Cascadia subduction zone runs all the way down here. Also, another fault right here. This is the Juan de Fuca fault. I've referred to this fault as a zigzag fault. Okay? We could just as easily have the Cascadia earthquake happening right here on the Juan de Fuca fault. However, the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake is going to happen in this area right here, this general area between the Cascadia and the Juan de Fuca fault, just off the coast of Seattle right here. Today, at the entrance to the Strait of Juan de Fuca, this body of water here is called the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Today, at Nia Bay, Washington, this is a 2.04 minor earthquake. A 2.04 minor earthquake. Further north here, this is Campbell River, British Columbia. This is a 1.79 tremor. Further down here, for kicks and giggles, this is Mount Rainier. They're calling this Packwood, Washington, but it's not. They say this is 8 miles west-northwest of Packwood, Washington. What does that tell you? Mount Rainier, guys. Mount Rainier. This is on the southern slopes of Mount Rainier right here. Okay? It's not Packwood, Washington, or anywhere near Packwood, Washington. This is the Mount Rainier volcano. They're saying this is a 0.74 microquake. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's not the case. It's not the case at all. Okay? They're not identifying all the earthquakes even here at Mount Rainier or even Mount St. Helens here. They're not showing one earthquake. I have in the past shown you seismographs from this area, or seismograms from this area. Seismograph is a machine. The seismogram is a graph showing the earthquakes, tremors, and microquakes happening at these volcanoes. I've shown you the activity. Again, Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier are gearing up to erupt. All the activity is pointing to that future event. That future event could be tomorrow, next week, or next year. I don't think it's going to be that long. I don't think it's going to be that long, but it's going to happen. I want to make that clear. Okay? Again, over here at the Strait of Juan de Fuca, we have a 2.04 smaller or minor earthquake. The Cascadia subduction zone comes down here. We have 4 earthquakes right here on the Gorda Escarpment. The triple junction is just that. The earthquake fault called the Gorda Escarpment meets up with the Cascadia subduction zone, fault zone, and also the San Andreas fault. Now, while that happens, again, let's go back down here to the Bay Area. Okay, I want to show you this. There are 3 earthquakes here on the Cascadia subduction zone today. Again, this is San Francisco Bay. Okay, let me show you this. 3 earthquakes here, and this is very common to have this happen. Okay, this is a 1.47 minor tremor. A 1.47 minor tremor. Notice where they say it is. 2 miles northwest of San Francisco Zoo, right here. Right here at San Francisco Zoo. We have earthquakes here all the time. This is nothing new. Not at all. Also right here is a 1.23 tremor, and also right here is a 1.92 tremor. This could easily have been a 2.0 earthquake as well. This happens all the time over here off the coast of San Francisco Zoo. I want to make it clear. When you see these kind of earthquakes off the coast of San Francisco Zoo, it happens all the time. Literally all the time. Now, while we're talking about that, what happens when we have the Cascadia megathrust earthquake? All that energy coming down from this area right here, it's going to radiate either down the Juan de Fuca or straight down. It could happen that the seismic energy is going to be radiated down the Juan de Fuca fault, down to the Blanco fracture zone, down here to the Gorda Ridge, down here to the Gorda Escarpment, and over here to the San Andreas Fault. But just as easily, it could be radiated from here down the Cascadia subduction zone fault, down here to the San Andreas, and down here all the way through California, because the San Andreas fault radiates all the way down through California, including San Francisco, Monterey Bay, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and San Diego, and down here into Northern California. Down here in Northern California, Baja California, not Northern California, but Baja California. San Diego right here. It can happen. It can very much happen. Okay, I want you to be aware of it. Also, like we showed you yesterday, look at all the earthquakes over here in Eastern California and Nevada. Look at all these earthquakes. From Northern California up here, Sun Valley, Nevada, a 1.2 tremor here. It's on the Walker Lane Fault, ladies and gentlemen, right here. This is a volcano. The Walker Lane Fault Zone runs all the way from down here. This is also part of the Walker Lane Fault Zone. It runs from down here all the way up here to this volcano. All the way up there to that volcano. Right there. And at some point in time, if you looked at the Navy map, if you ever looked at the Navy map, you can see that on Google all over the place, all over the internet. At some point in time, and it's going to cause or have to have a huge major earthquake for it to happen. This whole area from the Gulf of California all the way up here is going to have a huge major earthquake. This is going to be an inland waterway. This whole area is going to be an inland waterway. And you can see all the earthquakes here. It's preparing. The Earth is preparing for that to happen. That's why we have all these earthquakes here. Okay? This is Ridgecrest. This is Ridgecrest right here, the Mojave Desert. Okay? Here in the Anza-Borrego Desert, down here in the Imperial Valley, and down here in northern Mexico. The Earth is preparing for that to happen. It's preparing for that to happen every day. Okay? Now, getting back to all the earthquakes around the world. Okay? We already told you about that earthquake over here in Ecuador. Right up here in Ecuador. Okay? Look at all the earthquakes here. There are 25 earthquakes here in Central America or South America, from Colombia all the way down here to central Chile. Okay? Most of these are just 2.0, 2.5, 3.4, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5, 4.9, and all the way up here where it came out as a 7.4 earthquake, and now it's only showing a 5.7 very large earthquake. Regardless, this is at least a very large earthquake. Okay? However, right here, this is the Kermadec Islands north of New Zealand. The Kermadec Islands north of New Zealand. Look at all the earthquakes here. Okay? There's more earthquakes here around New Zealand than we've had in the past, stretching from just south of the Kermadec Islands all the way down here to the southern island of New Zealand here. This is Southland New Zealand here. This is a 2.4. This is a 2.6. This is a 2.69 here, 2.7. Let's go up here. Okay, I want you to see this. Yesterday we had 2 earthquakes here. Today we only have a 2.36. What is right there? What's right there? This is Taupo Lake. This is Taupo Lake in New Zealand. What is Taupo Lake? Taupo Lake is a supervolcano. A supervolcano here. Yesterday we had a 4.5 and a 4.36 right here at Topo Lake. Today we have a 2.36, but look at all these other earthquakes all around the volcano.
She says that there's a plane crash in Philadelphia. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Oh crap, she's trying to get a hold of you.
Carol, could you just briefly audibly tell us about
Here,
that?
2 seconds. Oh, sorry. I will give it to you from the Bluetooth and you can tell them. That's okay. Okay, here, just, she'll tell you over the Bluetooth. They probably can hear me.
Okay, guys, I just got notified by Rebecca. She was on the phone with my wife.
Who's there? Who's there? Hello? Can you hear? Can you hear her?
Okay, can you hold on a second? I'm going to have Carol take you off Bluetooth, and I'm going to put you live on the air, okay? Hold on. Let her take you off Bluetooth.
Can you hear? See if she can hear you.
Okay,
You
can
don't have to do that.
you hear
You
me?
don't have to do that.
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
speak.
Okay, guys, Rebecca is here on the air with us. Rebecca, please tell everybody what you know.
Okay, there are 8 reported dead in a Philadelphia plane crash. It was a Learjet Air 55 air ambulance. It has crashed. There were 6 people on board. There were 2 doctors, 2 pilots, 1 patient, 1 family member. They have crashed in the area of the Roosevelt Mall in Philadelphia. There are cars on fire, there are buildings on fire, and there are people dead that were not on the plane. There are also multiple injured.
Okay, this was an air ambulance, guys, in Philadelphia at the, what mall was it?
The Roosevelt Mall in Philadelphia, and it is under investigation. It just happened. It was at the Cotman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard.
Wow. This is incredible.
It is being investigated. They're saying that it hit several buildings and cars in the area, and multiple casualties have been reported.
Wow.
So this is breaking news. I wanted to make sure that you knew what was going on because I've been posting in chat, and so had Brokefish and other people, but we didn't know if you had seen it, and I kind of thought that it might be important for people to know what's going on.
I agree, it is. It's very important. I'm going to get around to talking about that crash in Washington in just a few minutes here because it's significant. I have new information about the crash in Washington, D.C.
All righty.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on the air.
All righty.
Thanks. Bye. Here's Carol. Thanks, Carol. Carol, this is my wife, was right here just a minute ago, and she was on the phone with Rebecca, and Rebecca wanted to share that information with all of us. It's significant. It's very significant, guys. Okay? Very important. Now, with that said, there are more earthquakes over here in the Kermadec Islands here. Just really briefly, this is a 5.39, a mid-range 5. Okay, this is most assuredly close to a 5.4 earthquake. Okay, over here in the Kermadec Islands. Again, the Kermadec Islands of New Zealand are non-occupied except for birds. It's a bird sanctuary. Notice where all these earthquakes are at. Notice where all these earthquakes are at. Okay, on fault lines here. This earthquake right here is on the Tonga Trench. On the Tonga Trench coming out of Tonga right here. This earthquake is near Hihifo, Tonga, 91 miles east of Hihifo, Tonga. It is a 4.7 moderate earthquake. Okay. Down here on that same trench, okay, we have a 5.3 earthquake, nearly a 5.4 earthquake here. Over here, okay, this is the south of the Fiji Islands. This is a 4.4 moderate earthquake here, okay? As you can see, there are more earthquakes right in here, okay? Vanuatu. I have never seen this many earthquakes in Vanuatu yet, okay? That's a 3.5. 3.5. Let's go up here to the north. That is a 1.7. This is 1.2 right here. This is a 4.4 moderate earthquake here. Right here. This is a 3.4. That is a 3.5. So we have one moderate earthquake, we have some 3s, and we have some 1.2s, 1.3 tremors here in Vanuatu. But that is the most earthquakes we've ever had near Vanuatu in a long, long time. Okay, we have these kind of earthquakes here that you see here, but we usually see those when we have major earthquakes or even large earthquakes. The last major earthquake was a 7.4 over here in Vanuatu several months ago. Remember that near Vila, Vanuatu? Killed a lot of people, about 100 people, and injured even more, and destroyed a lot of the downtown area of Vila, Vanuatu. Over here, this is New Caledonia. That's a 2.7. That's a 2.8. And this is a 2.7 here. Over here, this is a 3.1. These earthquakes right here are far enough offshore as these are here in Vanuatu. They're not going to do anything. Okay? These are small enough where nothing's going to happen. These earthquakes right here are small enough where nothing's going to happen. The power of these earthquakes was absorbed, the shock waves were absorbed by the water. Even then, they're not large enough to do much of anything, including make damages. This earthquake here is a 3.1. This is the largest of the 4 earthquakes here in New Caledonia. But again, these are out to sea. These are small enough so they would not cause any damage. And even if they were, these were out to sea where most of the energy here would be absorbed by the Pacific Ocean here in New Caledonia. Okay? Further up here. Okay? There's a large earthquake here in Kirikiri, Solomon Islands. This is a 5.4 moderate or mid-range 5 large earthquake here in the Solomon Islands. 94 miles east of Kirikiri, Solomon Islands, again out in the Pacific Ocean. Here, Papua New Guinea, a 4.4 earthquake. Indonesia, this is Papua, Indonesia, a 3.5 and a 2.7 earthquake. Over here, east of Java, this is a 5.0 large earthquake. Okay, Java, Indonesia here. This is all Java, Indonesia. These are 3s and 4s here. We go up into Sumatra. This is a 4.5. That's a 3.3. That's a 2.8. I think I just lost my European map here for whatever reason. Anyway, okay, yes, we did lose our map, but it doesn't matter. I showed you the large and major earthquakes of the day so far. Now, given that information, okay, I'm going back to what happened in Washington, D.C. just a few days ago. It's very important that we understand what happened. Okay, very, very important. Number 1, loss of life. Loss of life, guys. We can't ignore that. We can never ignore that at all. Okay? Now, what do I have to tell you? Okay? Again, this is important. First off, let me show you a picture here. This is the Potomac River. in Washington, D.C. We have a rescue boat here with volunteer recovery people. Okay, volunteer recovery people. This is the wreckage of the plane. This is that regional airliner that came out of Wichita, Kansas, that crashed here the other day. And yes, it says out of control. Why does it say out of control? It's because the investigation is now ramped up. Okay? They've got 27 survivors that they have taken out of the water. Or not survivors, I'm sorry, 27 bodies that they've taken out of the water. There are no survivors of this crash. There are absolutely no survivors of this crash. But look, again, this is 7 feet of water here. This is a piece of wreckage of the plane. Okay? Again, the fuselage was cut in half. Cut literally in half here. All right? It's bad. It's very bad. Now, we have more information now. Okay? I'm giving you the latest information. Now, we've talked a lot about air traffic controllers. Okay? The day this happened. Okay? Wednesday night ahead of the deadly collision. Ahead of the collision. The responsibility of handling air traffic control for helicopters and incoming planes at Reagan International Airport is the responsibility of air traffic control. We talked about that helicopter, that Sikorsky Black Hawk helicopter coming out of Bolo Air Force Base. Or not Air Force Base, I'm sorry, Army Base. Okay? It was headed down the Potomac like we said, right? Well, guess what? I have more information. A lot more information. I'll come back to talk about air traffic control in a minute. I want you to see this. Look at that. That's showing you the helicopter coming towards the plane. This is never before seen. Okay, this comes from CNN. Okay, that's pretty graphic, isn't it? It absolutely is. But we needed to talk about it. We have to talk about it. Now, why is it so important? To hear a former airlines captain react to what happened. It's major. It's major. We've never before seen this kind of thing happen. Yes, we have had other planes run into other planes before. This is the first time we've had it on camera where two aircraft hit each other. But what we've come up with is this. The responsibility of handling air traffic control for helicopters or incoming planes in the Reagan International Airport was combined into a major deadly collision just outside of Reagan National Airport Wednesday night. Sometime before the American Airlines flight crashed into the Army Black Hawk Sikorsky helicopter over the Potomac River, an air traffic controller was assigned both the duties by their supervisor. Assigned both duties by the supervisor. Okay? Why? Why was an air traffic controller assigned duties like that? Usually the duties of handling helicopter traffic and manage airplanes are divided from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. at the airport when traffic slows down. those duties might be combined. But let me tell you this. The air traffic control duties in the Reagan National Airport were 2/3 badly staffed. They had 2/3 of the staff they usually have. On Wednesday night, an air traffic control supervisor combined the duties before 9:30 p.m. and allowed one air traffic controller to leave the job early. One air traffic controller left the job early. Now, at first, the FAA did not immediately answer questions about the reports that the one air traffic controller left early. The Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport has 25 certified professional controllers and 3 certified professional controllers in training. 25 certified professional controllers and 3 certified professional controllers in training, what they call CPC-ITS. Those CPC-ITS were previously fully certified at other facilities. The tower is now authorized to have 28 controllers, despite the report saying that staffing was not normal. A person familiar with the matter told Fox News Digital that staffing in the control tower on Wednesday night was at a normal level, but it was beyond what they should have had. The information that I have is that air traffic controllers are 2/3 staffed, meaning they usually have 1/3 more controllers than they have right now. Not normal. Not normal. They usually have more staff on duty. It's unreal. It's unreal to know that. Okay? The air traffic controllers are understaffed, undermanned, just like almost all positions are, whether it is government or civilian staffing in their businesses. Understaffed and overworked. One person explained that the positions get combined regularly if air traffic controllers have to step away from the console for breaks or if they are involved in a shift change. Controllers may also have to step away when air traffic control is slow. Okay? They're taken out of the control tower if the air traffic is slow. Okay? Supervisors have the ability to combine roles, which was the case on Wednesday night before the crash. Okay? When asked about air traffic in previous reports of being heavy on Wednesday night, the source says it was moderate. Air traffic was moderate in the area. Okay? The air traffic control at Reagan National had been understaffed for years, with 19 fully certified controllers as of September 2023. However, staffing targets set by the FAA and the Controllers Union call for at least 30 controllers. The cause of this shortage has been attributed to employee turnover and factors like tight budgets. And ultimately, it has resulted in many controllers working 10-hour shifts and as many as 6 days a week. Isn't that interesting? They're understaffed. They've been understaffed for years with 19 fully certified controllers on duty since September 2023. Staffing targets are set at 30. They're still understaffed. Did that lead to the situation at Reagan National Airport the other night? I think it contributed to it. Now, there's something else that you need to know, that everyone should know. And I ask everybody to share this program far and wide. Okay? Please share this program tonight far and wide. Everybody needs to know this. Okay? Everybody needs to know this. Complaints about the Federal Aviation Administration's hiring policies have resurfaced following the incident at Reagan National Airport Wednesday night, including claims that candidates for air traffic control were rejected based on race. Candidates for the job were rejected based on race. Too white. Too white. Why does it matter? Details surrounding the mid-air collision between the passenger jet and the military helicopter has left as many as 67 people dead. The details are still emerging. Like I said, I just found out about this evening before I came on the air. The helicopter I told you had crashed into the right rear side of the passenger plane. You saw it. Now, something else you need to know. That helicopter should have been flying lower than the passenger aircraft. It should be flying at least 200 feet off the ground. It was not. It's flying higher, and as a result, it hit that plane. Now, the other day when President Trump talked about the aircraft crash, Thursday morning, yesterday, he suggested diversity hiring programs were to blame, but he did not provide evidence to prove it. But what we know, scrutiny about the FAA's hiring practices was raised years before Wednesday's accident. Years before. A major class action lawsuit had been filed against the federal agency over claims that applications for air traffic controllers were rejected based on race. Too white. Too white. I have several people that have come forward and said that. The original lawsuit that we just got through telling you about was filed on behalf of Andrew Brigida, who claimed the FAA under the Obama administration had dropped a skills-based system for hiring air traffic controllers. Under Obama, the Federal Aviation Administration dropped a skills-based system for hiring air traffic controllers. Remember what President Trump said yesterday morning? DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, may have resulted in that crash Wednesday night. People were too white. The Obama and Biden administration followed this up. They kept doing it. Brigida, who filed the lawsuit, is white. He scored 100% on his training exam. He said he was discriminated against because of his race when his application was rejected. In January 2014, Brigida received an email informing him that the FAA was implementing changes to improve and streamline the hiring process for ATCs, air traffic controllers, that his application was impacted by these changes. In other words, you had to be something other than white. The Mountain States Legal Foundation was representing him and hundreds of other people from different racial backgrounds who say they were discriminated against under the FAA's hiring policy. The hiring policy. Okay? That is just one reason why this accident may have happened. The hiring policy. And too few air traffic controllers on duty. Why is that? Payroll. Payroll. I found out through the years that payroll figures into a lot of things. They let people go, or they let people go early because they don't want the budget. They don't want the budget impacts. But what happens when something like this happens? Okay? When one controller is let go early because it was slower than normal, one air traffic controller would have handled the helicopters and the other controller handled the planes. In this case, the air traffic controller that was in this instance was following both the helicopter and the plane. And remember what the air traffic controller told the helicopter? She asked, "Do you have the airplane in sight? Do you have the airplane in sight?" The helicopter pilot said yes. But again, as we explained yesterday during last night's program, the helicopter pilots were wearing night vision goggles. They had tunnel vision. They couldn't see out to the side. Okay? They could not see out to the side. This should never have happened. That Black Hawk helicopter should have been flying lower. According to the ATC, the air traffic controller asked the helicopter to stay away from the plane. That didn't happen, did it? As President Trump said during yesterday's press briefing, the helicopter could have flown very low, or even at the last minute dropped down. They have that ability. The helicopter could have gone up even more. Didn't do it, did they? Air traffic controller said, "Do you see the plane?" No, we didn't, because the helicopter pilot had on those night vision goggles. So their peripheral vision was obstructed. The helicopter pilot could have gone higher, could have gone lower, and even could have gone to the side. That didn't happen. As a result, we had that helicopter crash into the side of that plane. Unreal. Uncaught and picking real. Was air traffic control to blame? Possibly. Possibly. Was the helicopter pilot doing what they were supposed to be doing? No. They were told to stay away from the plane, number one. They were asked if they could see the plane, which they said they could, but they didn't. Again, night vision goggles, plus all the other light around Washington, D.C. could be seen. So maybe they would have spotted that other plane like we said last night, because there was another plane that had taken off from Reagan International that went off to the west, southwest. The plane that we're talking about right now was also coming out of Wichita, headed for the runway 33 at Reagan National, coming out of the southeast. Again, the plane had been following the Potomac River. Just like up to the north, the helicopter had been following the eastern side of the Potomac River headed south on the normal train flight. But in this case, the Wichita-based plane had been coming into Reagan National, hoping to land on runway 1. That would have kept the plane out of harm's path. But Reagan National Traffic Control said to go further east and then come in on runway 33. Runway 1 was a 5,000 plus foot runway. Runway 33 was only 2,000 plus feet long. More of a dangerous runway threat because it was a shorter runway. But it also required the plane to go out to the northeast, further out to the northeast, then come in and bank and fly into runway 33. But instead, what happened? When it went out to the northeast, before it had to bank, the helicopter wasn't looking for that, was not aware of it. The air traffic controller was speaking to both the helicopter and the plane. The plane didn't hear the helicopter, and the helicopter did not hear the plane. It was one-way communication between air traffic control and the helicopter and air traffic control at the plane. If the air traffic controller could have been letting the plane and the helicopter hear themselves, then possibly this could have been avoided. But again, they were understaffed. They were understaffed. Okay? It's very sad. Very sad. Now, that lawsuit that I just got through talking about, it's too bad it has to happen, but it has to happen. Even when I was a federal police officer, At one point in time, they're trying to get rid of me and other officers because we're white. That happens frequently in federal government service. They want to fill government quotas. You have to be white, you have to be Hispanic, you have to be Filipino or Asian. Yeah, true story. That happens. But the FAA in this case and the Department of Transportation are contesting the lawsuit. Contesting that lawsuit that those applicants were too white. You had to be other races. It was a racist issue. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration's biographical assessment, is a screening process tool used to assess applicants' behavior, applicants' experience, and very little other. The test they were given was a multiple choice question test, usually a 100-question test on topics such as decision making, handling pressure and risk assessment, risk management. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, dropped the biographical assessment in 2018 in response to Congress passing a law banning its use. The FAA on its website says that the assessment was removed as a screening tool, and all applicants are now required to take air traffic control skills assessment. Air traffic control skills assessment, what they call ATSA. Now, why is that important? Why is that important? Because the whole thing was based on race. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Andrew Bajita, who initially filed the lawsuit, now it's a class action suit, said, you want to hire the best and the brightest for this kind of job, just like President Trump said yesterday, because it is a very stressful job, and it can take a toll on you. You can age prematurely because of stress. You want to make sure that people are doing it at the best possible level. DEI hiring policies have no place in America, especially in safety critical industries such as law enforcement and federal aviation. Wednesday night's accident is a sobering reminder of the costs of placing ideology over expertise. DEI ideology over expertise. How many more tragedies must occur before we return to common sense? President Trump said common sense yesterday. Common sense. There's very little common sense in government as we know it. That's one of the reasons that President Trump was elected, to bring common sense back. It's sad that we've lost common sense, and it's time to demand accountability. It's time to demand accountability within our government, both our federal, our state, and local governments. We must have and demand accountability. And if we can't get that, fire the people. Fire the people and get it. Okay? So it's sad. It's very sad. Now, every FAA certified air traffic controller has gone through months of screening process, months of training at the FAA Academy. And that's before another 18 to 24 months of training to learn specific regions and airspaces. What did we learn about Wednesday night's crash? It was over an area which is very tight air traffic control. Why? Because we have federal buildings. We have our federal government based in Washington, D.C., and most of Washington, D.C. is in a no-fly zone. So only aircraft that have permission can fly that short, narrow corridor. Okay? Only certified air traffic controllers and certified pilots that get in that area that have the common sense to fly in a restricted area can go into that area. Okay? So now, there is a well-known national shortage of air traffic controllers, and the FAA has ramped up outreach to ensure no talent is left on the table. The FAA is saying that they are accelerating the pace of recruitment, training, and hiring to meet the demand while maintaining the highest qualification standards. That's what President Trump asked, the highest qualification standards. President Trump yesterday said this at his press conference. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, or who they are. What matters is intellect, talent. The word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented, geniuses. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, air traffic controllers, and their lives have actually shortened, very substantially shortened because of the stress, where you have many, many planes coming into one target. You need a very special talent, a very special genius to be able to do it. And now we've had another accident in Philadelphia tonight. What's going to happen next? A civil discrimination lawsuit against the FAA involving 900 claimants. A civil discrimination lawsuit against the Federal Aviation Administration involving around 900 claimants. That's expected to go into court later next year. An investigation is ongoing right now to determine the cause of the Reagan National Airport accident Wednesday night. It's underway. This investigation is not going to take days. It may not take months, but it's going to take years. I've seen investigations like this take years. Years to complete. And I'm not joking about any of that. I'm not joking about any of it at all. We need to get serious here. We need to get serious. What happened Wednesday night in Washington and now again in Philadelphia is serious. I know President Trump is disgusted about what's happened. I'm disgusted. I used to work for the government. I'm totally disgusted. This should not have happened. Former airline pilots have blamed DEI for what happened Wednesday night. And I will bet you right now, that Learjet medical air ambulance that crashed in Philadelphia is going to be blamed on DEI as well. Okay? According to all of you here in chat, I need to make sure everybody hears this information because not everybody's here in chat or even monitoring the chat. The news will report what it is told to report. The mainstream media will tell you what they are told to tell you and no more. And as Sergey said here in the chat, the MSN, the mainstream media, is screwed up. They're going to be screwed up for years because they don't have the common sense that God gave them. They're being told by the Democrat Communist Party what to say. And if they don't say it or they get out of line, they're fired. How many people have been fired within the mainstream media? I know of at least 5 or 6. Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson at the top. There's many others. Okay? The numbers keep changing to DC crash. They have that number. Okay? There's 27 people that have been pulled out of the water out of the 67. 3 crew members from the helicopter. 2 of those have been recovered. The Army captain has not been pulled out of the water, and his family does not want his name revealed. There are 3 people in the helicopter. The chief warrant officer, 2. and the crew chief, a staff sergeant. But the Army captain, who was a chief pilot, has not been recovered. He's still in the helicopter. That means 25 people from the airplane are still inside the fuselage. And I was told earlier this morning that they're going to have to pull the fuselage out of the water to recover the rest of the bodies. That is a sobering statement right there. Today, Rebecca said the plane was en route to Springfield, Branson, Missouri National Airport in Missouri. And just like the Washington event, the Federal Aviation, the National Transportation Safety Board, and the FBI will be investigating. The Learjet was a medical air ambulance. Fox 29 in Philadelphia is reporting that they thought that 6 people were on the plane, but realized it was only 2 people on the plane. I find it hard to believe it was an air ambulance. There would be at least 3 or 4 people on the plane. Demon Catman says they need many people with many brain cells. I agree. They need people with common sense. They need people with talent. Richard Smith says he's done road traffic control work over 20 years. Can only imagine what air traffic control work could be like. Boggles the mind. I was a federal police officer. Our dispatchers were quality people. Our dispatchers were quality people. They had to be. They had to control all of us out in the field. And yes, we out in the field, most of us were very smart. Most of us had talent. Most of us had experience. But even then, back in the day when I was on the street, back in San Diego, I was trained in a man that I'm not going to identify because of DEI. Okay? I didn't know he was of racist ethnicity. He looked as white as you and I. But he wasn't doing what he was told. He'd just come out of the academy. As officers out of the academy, they go into a field training officer to receive street training. I was a field training officer. He was given to me. As his field training officer, it was up to me to give him the information he needed to become a good cop, to make good decisions, to do the right thing. Matt Martin is asking, what is DEI? What does it mean? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity is racism. Equity meaning mingle everybody. Inclusion, making sure everybody is on the same page, doing the same thing. Racism, discrimination. That's what it means. It doesn't mean anything about the ability to do the work. It doesn't mean anything about experience to do the work. The man that I was assigned to train did not look anything like black or any other Asian race. I was training him. All of us know people who run stoplights and stop signs. I had him with me for probably 2 or 3 weeks. He ran stop signs and stoplights. I warned him twice before. Do not run stop signs and do not run stoplights. Don't slow down and just go through the intersection. Stop. Stop, look both directions, and then only go through the intersection when it's safe. Or if you're in an emergency situation, you slow down and almost stop or stop with your lights and siren going, making sure you're clearing the intersection before you proceed. He didn't do that. He ran stop signs and stoplights, ran through the intersection, didn't, whether he was in an emergency situation or not. Finally, this one night, he ran another stop sign in this case. I asked him to pull over the side. He asked me why. And I said, because I am the training officer and I told you to pull over. Then you're going to come around, get out of the car and go around to the passenger side and get in. And I'm going to go around and get in the driver's side, and we're going to go back to the police department. Once I got in control of the car, I called dispatch and told them that I was en route to the police department and asked to speak to the captain once I got there. Once I got there, we got there. I said, come on in the police department, go into the staff room, and I'll meet you back here in a minute, which he did. Then I went to the captain, and I said, Captain, guess what? This man is doing the same old thing. He's running stop signs and stoplights. I warned him 3 times now. 3 times. I've given 2 other warnings that were on me. But the problem is, each of our police units, each of our cars had numbers on them. Numbers on them. They also had our police dispatch number on them, which means the public sees us break a law. The public sees us run an intersection. Or say we run into somebody because we have an accident and we ran that intersection. All of a sudden, we are responsible. So I brought him into the police department and I put him on suspension. The captain said, no problem. Then he called this man in. When he called the man in, he was charging me with discrimination. He claimed to be black. He claimed to be black. Like he said, I didn't know him from Adam when it come to blackness. He looked as white as I was. DEI. DEI. He was later put with another officer, a friend of mine who was a sergeant. The sergeant told me that he was told by the captain to get him through training no matter what and get him on the road because he knew for a fact what this man was going to do. The captain knew what he was going to do. He was going to file a racial discrimination lawsuit. So the captain got him through the sergeant got him through the training and put him on the road. But he was a bad apple. He was a very bad apple. He was always complaining about everything and everybody, even after he was assigned back on the road by himself, once he got through training. That's what happens with DEI inclusion practices. It's called discrimination. Total discrimination. It's unreal what happens, guys. It's sad. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sad. Now, what's going to happen with the military Black Hawk helicopter people? They've been grounded. They've been grounded until they can put the pilots and the staff through more training. They know what happened in the air Wednesday night. Pretty much everybody knows what happened in the air on Wednesday night in Washington, D.C. Is the training going to be different? Probably. The training will probably be different going on in the future. At least I hope. I hope. It's too bad this kind of stuff happens. It's very sad. Richard Smith says there was a time here in Nova Scotia when a few police officers took a police helicopter across the water to New Brunswick for a pizza. Richard says he doesn't know what happened to them. I'll tell you this. If you're assigned to a specific patrol area, you have to stay in that area. You cannot go into another area without permission. And go for food is not one of those. You can get another officer in the nearby patrol area to go after your pizza or whatever you want to eat, then meet you back at a specific destination on the edge of your patrol area and hand you your pizza, your food, whatever it is. You can do that if that officer's not on a call or if that officer has time. But that officer can also say, no, I can't do that. He doesn't have to do it. It's crazy. It's extremely crazy. Now, Rebecca is asking, that's what happened, I'm wondering, with a long flight. What happens with long flights, guys? Can anybody tell me what happens with long flights? Long flights mean that the pilots, the people working the plane, may be tired. They may be tired. They may not have the time or the ability, the mind capability to do the job to the extent that they were doing when they took over the plane. Okay? That may have been a factor in Philadelphia. They may have been tired. We don't know. We're going to find out. I promise you they're going to find out. Because what happened there is inexcusable. What happened there is inexcusable, guys. I'm telling you. Now, give me a second here. The Associated Press is reporting a fiery scene with multiple homes ablaze after that plane crash today in Philly. Let me show you a picture of this. That's a picture. First responders are working the scene of that small plane crash in Philadelphia today. Now, that small plane crashed in northeast Philadelphia 30 seconds after it took off as crews respond to a fiery scene in Pennsylvania. Governor Josh Shapiro said he's offering all Commonwealth resources as they respond to the small plane crash in northeast Philly. The crash happened less than 3 miles, 4.8 kilometers from northeast Philadelphia Airport, which primarily serves business jets and charter plane flights. That picture I showed you shows the residential homes on fire. Michael Schiavone, 37, was sitting in his home in Mayfair on Friday night when he heard a loud bang and his house shook. He said it felt like a mini earthquake, and when he went to check his home security footage, he saw it look like a missile was coming down. There was a large explosion, so I thought we were under attack for a second. Flight data shows a small jet taking off from the airport at 6:06 p.m. and disappearing from radar 30 seconds later, after climbing to an altitude of 1,600 feet, 487 meters. The plane crashed in a busy intersection near the Roosevelt Mall and Outdoor Shopping Center, where first responders were blocking off traffic and onlookers crowded onto a street corner in the residential neighborhood of Ronhurst. Philadelphia's Emergency Management Office said that the roads are closed in the area. One cell phone video taken by a witness moments after the plane crash showed a very chaotic scene with debris scattered across the intersection. A wall of orange glowed just below the intersection as a plume of black smoke quickly rose in the sky. Some witnesses could be heard crying while sirens blared. The Federal Aviation Administration said 2 people were on board the plane, which was a Learjet 55. The plane, a small business-type jet, was en route to Springfield, Missouri. The plane appeared to be a medical transport jet. The plane that took off and quickly disappeared from radar was registered to a company, Operation Medjet, operating as a Medjet. The FAA said the Transportation Safety Board will lead the investigation here. The NTSB investigates air crashes and said it was gathering information about the crash right now. And right now, because there's now 2 crashes, 2 aircraft crashes involving people, and now even people on the ground, the NTSB is going to be very spread thin. Spread very, very thin. Yes, the NTSB has people in Philly, has people in Washington, has people in every major city. They investigate crashes of all kinds, and they investigate other incidents as well. Okay? But now they're going to be spread very thin. The FBI is going to be involved. Air traffic control is going to be involved. The FAA is going to be involved. Literally. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. So far, does anybody have any questions about what is going on? Does anybody have any questions about what's going on? That small plane crashed into several homes in northeast Philadelphia tonight. Again, 2 people were on board the plane, and there are reports of others injured on the ground. Fire officials in Philadelphia are reporting multiple homes are on fire following the crash and the explosion. All kinds of emergency crews, including hazmat and heavy rescue in the fire department, and ambulances and police are on the scene. It's unclear what led to the crash and who was on board the plane and if there's any survivors. Again, the crash happened just blocks from the Roosevelt Mall, a 3-story shopping facility in a densely populated part of the Pennsylvania city. The area where the crash occurred is filled with terraced housing and shops. Video of the incident online showing the plane coming down quickly, a huge fireball occurring into the sky, rocketing into the sky. Again, the plane was a Learjet 55 taken off from the northeast Philadelphia airport about 1830 hours, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The crash occurred less than 4 miles, 64 kilometers away, according to the FAA. Weather forecasts in the area show it's been cloudy and rainy evening with winds measured 10 to 20 miles per hour. Again, do we have any questions or comments about what's going on? The only comment I have here in the chat on my monitor says, hey, when you're hungry, you got to go. That's the last comment. I believe that's about the pizza that we talked about earlier. Are we even on the air still? I'm wondering whether we're still on the air or not. Now I'm showing a video here of the crash in Philadelphia.
safety or danger. And they were all starting to close up shop. They were worried about their customers, and they were locking the doors and getting out of there before they even needed to be told to get out of there. The problem was there were so many people in that mall, then police, for their own good, telling the people to get back, don't breathe this heavy smoke in, and get out of here. And then there was kind of a traffic jam in there as well, because the mall was crowded, the parking lot was crowded, and like I said, even that McDonald's was crowded. When I parked there was one spot left, and then all the gawkers usually come to see what's going on because they hear a plane crash and they want to see what they can see as well. And that's why there were so many people here to begin with, and then so many more people came afterward to try to see what they could. And now I'm looking at Gasworks, I'm looking at Pico Power Company people here, and so many police and so many firefighters here as well. And we got moved so far back, I can't tell you whether all the flames are out or all the fires out or not. But you would hope by now maybe they do have a handle on it, because the thing I kept hearing as well from officials is that this is not under control by any means.
Yeah, and earlier, Steve, you showed us that auto zone, and there was some smoke right on the other side of that. Is it believed that that's where the plane crashed?
Yeah, that's where the house that was on fire, and that's coming from, you're looking down Cottman Avenue, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the house was on fire. And as I told you, and the police were like, these are parts of the plane that was across Cottman Avenue in Roosevelt Mall's parking lot. So if that was indeed parts of the plane, I don't know, if you would think the airport's north of here, then you would think, the plane crashed and then careened across Cottman Avenue, and that's why we saw the vehicles on fire, and then the house on fire, and the gas line on fire. So you would think there was parts on this side of Cottman Avenue, and then maybe careened across Cottman Avenue, or through the Cottman Avenue into the vehicles, and then into that house on the corner as well.
And then if your cameraman can pan over to that McDonald's, that's where you found a tank that you believe was on that crashed plane that flew from somewhere in the Roosevelt Mall parking lot all the way to that McDonald's. And let's show a picture of that tank.
Two police officers.
Go ahead.
Yeah, two police officers, Corporal Jasmine Riley, who I deal with, she and I walked over to that because she says, I'm told there's a tank from the plane that had a number 10 on it. It had, labeled Jet Medical. And then there you see the diner next to the McDonald's. Most of their lights are out. The restaurant word is out, but you see restaurant and diner with the red lights. And we're told another tank went over there. I can't confirm that, but I will as soon as I get off the air with you guys.
Your tweet right now, Steve, we are showing that tank that you're describing on the air right now.
Yeah, that McDonald's now shut down, and pretty much every business in the area is closed.
Yeah, and there was other debris in the McDonald's. That's why they're saying, let's clear out this parking lot so we can see the parking lot, because people may have had cars parked there and debris may have been flung under their cars and they were parked there. So they cleared all the cars out of that lot and cleared all the people out of that lot as well.
So, as we heard from Sergeant Grip, that we will hear from police in about 20 minutes. I would imagine dignitaries, the mayor will eventually make her way out there. This is my assumption. On a moment like this, it's still chaos. And we're still trying to gauge the amount of injuries on the ground. Oh, we're seeing a shot here now of a burned out car. I'm not sure where this is. This might be in the parking lot of the Roosevelt. Is this live on the right? Okay, that's live on the right. So now we're getting an idea of the aftermath in one of these parking lots with the charred out car.
Yeah, so Mark Lavala is our photojournalist out there on the scene. What can you tell us, Mark?
Well, a couple fire department vehicles just moved, and I'm seeing this for the first time now. That is not the parking lot. That is Cottman Ave. Just beyond Leonard Street. I don't know if I was calling it Leonard Street earlier. I might have called it Leonard Ave, but it's Leonard Street. There's a Raising Cane's across the street that's on Cottman, and Leonard Street is directly across. Now, I can't see the house that was burning anymore, but after those vehicles moved, you are now looking at, like you said, a burned out car, and I don't even want to guess what's in the middle there, but there's a lot of debris right there.
Yeah.
So that's actually, we're looking at Cottman right now. That's Cottman.
That's Cottman. That is Cottman. Yeah. Okay. So Steve Keeley was talking. He was on the other. My shot is facing towards Roosevelt Boulevard. So Steve Keeley, like if you look at that 18, the number 18
Yes.
fire truck right there, I believe Steve was on the other side of that. And so I'm totally opposite of him. And I am like, this is what's in between us.
Wow. Mark, hold on there for 1 minute
I
because
imagine this.
we just
go ahead.
got some information from Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. They released a statement saying that at approximately 6:25, Jet Rescue Air Ambulance experienced a crash. The Lear Jet 55 crashed after takeoff from Philadelphia, and they are saying that there were 4 crew members and 1 passenger, a pediatric patient on board. No further information is available at this time. They go on to say that they cannot confirm any survivors. No names are being released at this time until family members have been notified. It says our immediate concern is for the patient's family, our personnel, their families, and other victims that may have been hurt on the ground. And
4
it just
people
says
in the
more
jet
information will be released
and a
as
pediatric,
the
one of them a
information available.
pediatric
This is coming
patient.
from Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. This was released just a short time ago from that company.
Back to Mark here, because this is as bad as we've seen the devastation on the ground. This is our closest look at it. I mean, here, Mark, it looks like this is ground zero.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of when I was trying to describe, because you know we don't want to disrespect the scene too much, and I'm hoping we're not seeing anything too graphic. But it just looks like, I mean, I see that car ahead, and I did see some workers using their phones and taking probably doing video walks.
If you back up here, can you just widen out here, and I just kind of want to get a better lay of the land. Okay, so there you can see.
So this is the Leonard Street.
Yes.
That's the house where I was telling you about. That's what we were looking at earlier.
I see.
Leonard Street, and then there's a house next to it.
And that house is still smoldering.
Well, no, I think it's that smoke is beyond. I think Steve was describing what he was seeing. That was also that was where closer to Roosevelt Boulevard, and I didn't see that earlier. We just started seeing that like about 10 minutes ago, and so right near Leonard Street, it's just a little beyond. This is where? So there's the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you had described, a fire vehicle moved out of the way and gave you a clearer picture of the devastation on top.
Yeah, there was nothing clear earlier. It was just all cars and a couple big fire trucks just moved. And this is what we're seeing now. Yeah. I just can't even, you can't even describe it. I don't see people walking through there at all.
Yeah.
Normally these scenes you would just see them, walking through and looking through. But at this point, I would guess NTSB are the ones you got to wait for them to.
Well, yeah, they'll investigate that. They'll investigate the call. Try to gather every piece of plane they can possibly get their hands on.
Okay, guys, I'm going to leave the broadcast from Fox 29 in Philly. Again, a Lear 55 jet was coming out of Philadelphia headed for Missouri, and it crashed a short time after it took off. We just got an update from the medical transportation company that said there are 4 people on the plane. Probably 2 pilots and a nurse and a pediatric patient were on that plane. There's nothing saying who survived or if we have survivors at all. That's what happened. Does anybody have any questions about what happened? I was going to talk about emergency preparedness, but I think that's going to turn around for another day. We've covered the event right live as much as we could tonight. I told you what happened in Washington, D.C. I told you about the possible cause of that crash in Washington, D.C. And while we were talking about that and getting that out, then we have this crash in Philadelphia. Does anybody have any questions about this? Charlene is here. She just got here to join this evening. I'm sorry you're coming in here so late. Again, we started this broadcast talking about a very large earthquake in Ecuador today, late this afternoon, and other earthquakes that have happened. Now, that's happened. We talked about the earthquakes in the South Pacific. We talked about the earthquakes in California. We talked about that large earthquake in Ecuador, Peru area. That earthquake happened in the Andes Mountains, okay, right next to volcanoes, okay? Hurricane Heather says 4 bodies on board, no survivors expected. That's what I kind of figured. Now, I'm still monitoring the Fox 29 feed here because primarily I want to keep that feed up because the reporter was going to talk to a police officer friend of his that said he was going to come back in 20 minutes, and I was going to let you guys hear that conversation, hear that report. Again, a plane happened to go down in Philadelphia tonight, a medical transportation aircraft, a Learjet 55 coming out of Philly Airport, headed for Missouri, and it went down a short time later, just minutes later, near the Roosevelt Mall in Philadelphia. Plane came down, 4 patients on board, we just found out. They said originally only 2 people were on board. The Lear company said 4 people were on board, 2 pilots, a nurse, and a pediatric patient. Okay? Demon Catman just put up in the chat that Carol and I love cards and letters. You can send those parcels and letters to 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code is 28655. You can also send donations to keep this program on the air to our PayPal and also to our Venmo. We'd really appreciate that a lot. Okay? We'd appreciate that a lot. Quite a few of you have sent us donations on Super Chat and Super Thanks, and we really appreciate that. Again, just about a week or so ago, we sent a payment of $250 to Samaritan's Purse for the survivors in Western North Carolina. Right after President Trump was elected, a few days after he was elected, he went to Western North Carolina, and he's taken over the scene in Western North Carolina to make sure the people that were in the cold are no longer in the cold. He put them in semi-permanent situations in homes and also in hotels in Western North Carolina to get them off the street and off the ground. 3 babies have died, and I think one of the persons died in Western North Carolina. Now, I was going to tell you this, and I forgot it until now. In Western North Carolina, we have a fire. There was a fire up there that was now contained, but there's another fire, and that fire is west of us here in Morganton. It's over near Lake James in North Carolina. It's only 40% contained, and it's still burning. It's burned about 400 acres. Now, with that said, today, us here in the foothills of North Carolina, we were in a situation. Okay? Why is that? Because, folks, that situation involves our very lives. Okay? The Weather Service has put us in a situation here. Okay? I'm going to talk about it. There is an air quality alert here in North Carolina right now in the foothills of North Carolina. According to the I got ATC on the brain. According to the air quality people here in North Carolina, our current air is average 2 parts per million, 2.5 million concentration around spruce pine. Spruce pine is just south and west of us. Spruce pine is just south and west of Morganton. That area in spruce pine has a code orange range. With a mixture of code yellow and green, daily averages elsewhere across the state are good. But here in Morganton and Burke County, we're under a air quality alert, okay? Meaning bad air, okay? Recent hourly parts per million 2.5 values have risen into the code yellow range in most regions, with the exception of spruce pine, which is southwest of us, with the code red range. Code red means very dangerous air, okay? The general forecast discussion is this, okay? On Saturday, actually, let me back up. Earlier today, we got a air warning of dangerous air here in Burke County. On Saturday, tomorrow, air quality is supposed to improve at most locations here in the Piedmont and the western part of North Carolina. Okay, that's because there's a frontal area passing us, a weather area passing us right now. Right now, earlier today, we had misty atmospheric here. It wasn't really raining, it was just misting. Now we have full blown rain here in Morganton. That's also going to help scrub the air. But until that frontal area passes us, okay, focusing on western North Carolina, the latest available information from the North Carolina Forest Service shows that the Crook Tree Fire in McDowell County is 100% contained. That was the main fire. The North Fork Fire, also in McDowell County, located just west of Lake James, is now 350 acres burned with 40% containment. Any precipitation from today is not expected to put the fire out. Relative humidities here will drop following the frontal passage, and winds in the region will be light as high pressure builds in. These conditions will do little to mitigate the new smoke accumulation from the fires, especially in the valleys and low elevations downwind to the southeast. That's where we're at, the southeast of this fire. We're issuing the Air Quality Control Board here in North Carolina has issued a code orange Quality Action Day for Burke and McDowell counties effective Saturday, February 1st. Air quality may be unhealthy for sensitive groups, including people with heart and lung disease, older adults, children and teenagers, pregnant women, minority populations, and outdoor workers. The outlook is this. The air shed will begin stagnating on Sunday underneath an open ridge and high surface air pressures. Return flow around the high to the north will push any accumulated particle pollution to the west. The code yellow daily average parts per million 2.5 concentrations are possible in the Piedmont and the foothills. High pressure will persist off the southeastern U.S. coast on Monday, and winds will veer southwesterly again. Moderate code yellow conditions are expected throughout most of the state on Monday, meaning cautious conditions. You shouldn't stay out and exercise, and if possible, you should stay indoors for the most part. That's code yellow. Today we're in a code orange, red type of situation. Here in Morganton, it's a code orange alert here. Okay? Green is no problem. Orange is very serious. Yellow is cautious, and red is very bad. Today, Morganton, where I'm at, is not red, it's orange. Okay? Rebecca's asking, when they say 4 on board, are they counting the pilots? Yes. 2 pilots, a flight nurse, and a pediatric patient. 2 pilots, a pediatric nurse, and a patient. Because the patient is a pediatric patient. Now, Arnold Smith is saying up where he lives in Alberta area, he says 11 degrees Celsius now going down to minus 25 by Sunday here in western Alberta. The Arctic vortex is heading through the north, South Dakota, and heading to the Chicago region. Take care, folks. Yes, it's an Arctic vortex. It's a very, very cold air. Very, very cold air coming out of Alberta, Canada, headed to the southeast. North and South Dakota into Chicago and further east. Okay, that whole area is going to be lambasted with cold air. Does anybody have any questions? Those of you here near where I live, you need to be very careful with your air. Don't be going outside doing anything heavy duty, at least until Monday. At least until Monday. Okay, let's go back to Philadelphia.
And that appears to be it. Just, I didn't expect a lot there. It's just so fluid, and there's so many things yet to be determined. So Mayor Sherrill Parker, the main point they're saying, if you come across debris, first of all, stay away from the area. Don't touch anything. And if you see any debris, call 911. So that's really was the gist of what she had to say early on. She had no information on injuries, fatalities, casualties on the ground. I would have liked to have known, what the hospital situations are like, what the triage units in some of the area hospitals are like. Still too soon to tell. You're looking on the right at what we believe is ground zero, where this crash happened on Cotman, and on the left, the mayor, along with the police commissioner, Kevin Bethel, and Adam Teal, the managing director, the former fire chief, was all there. But again, they did not take questions. Just a very stern ask of the mayor to don't touch anything.
And Shawnette and Steve Keeley both were saying that there were a lot of people who live in that neighborhood who had come out to see what was happening, to see the scene, some people gawking. And basically the mayor is saying, please don't do that. Stay away from the scene, stay in your homes. And if you do see something that you suspect may be a piece of wreckage from the plane, any kind of evidence that may be related to this huge disaster, to call 911, not to touch it, not to do anything, but basically, keep away from this scene. And we do know that Roosevelt Boulevard is closed to traffic right now. And the mayor, Jason, saying all hands on deck, that she had talked to Governor Josh Shapiro and that he was on his way to the city of Philadelphia to do whatever he can to help in this crisis the city is facing at this moment.
It's pretty shocking to think about, just 2 plane crashes in just a couple of days, one right here in our own backyard, one down in DC. What does that mean on a federal level when you're talking about 2 major crashes that have, wide-ranging implications? How will the NTSB divvy up that? The FAA says the NTSB will be leading the investigation into this. It could be months before we have an official cause, whether they can recover. I mean, can you imagine trying to find a black here? I think 55 has one, I would imagine. And so again, every piece of debris and evidence is of utmost importance to investigators. But again, priority 1, how is everybody on the ground doing?
Right.
People coming home from work with no warning, and suddenly a fireball right in their own neighborhood, houses on fire, gas lines burning. Some of that chaos is wound down, and now we're left to just figure out what's next.
Exactly. And if you are just joining us right now, this was a small plane crash that happened just after 6 o'clock. The plane was departing Northeast Philadelphia Airport. We're hearing different reports on how many people were on board, anywhere from 2 to 6 people. We believe it was a medical transport aircraft. It was headed to Branson, Missouri, to the airport out there, when for some unknown reason, this plane just burst into flames, causing multiple fires on the ground. This was at Roosevelt Mall. This was at Cotman and Roosevelt Boulevard. We just heard from the mayor. She said right now she does not have any report on the number of fatalities, that she's just asking for prayers. She did confirm that several houses and vehicles were impacted, and we have seen video of a house on fire. We've seen cars on fire. We've heard from people on the ground describing an absolutely horrific scene, and the mayor saying it is still a very active scene right now, giving one of the first of what she said will be many briefings. And Jason, you can only imagine, I mean, it's a damp and dreary, cold, windy, awful night. And tomorrow, when we see the light of day, we'll really be able to see the impact of this. And top police sources describing to our Steve Keeley that it's a gruesome scene, an awful scene. So just a major disaster in the city of Philadelphia unfolding shortly after 6 o'clock tonight. And just impacting so many people.
Yeah, and this is, all my friends in the Northeast, they're so proud of where they come from, and this is just such a dark, terrible day for these folks who are so shaken up. It's a day they'll never forget. This is one of those days you'll never forget, this terrible crash that happened, and now we have so few answers about what happened and who's truly impacted here, and just some of those videos of folks reacting in real time. There's another surveillance type video of the fireball as the sky was bright orange in this moment. Firefighters doing a tremendous job getting all the fires out and doing the best they can in this chaotic situation where the smell of fuel was in the air. Visually, you couldn't see anything, black smoke, and people in the mall. I'm not sure how crowded the mall was at this time. You have to assume there was a lot of people at 6 p.m. And so let's get out to our Cheyenne Corinne. She is where Mark Lavala was, along Cotman Avenue. Cheyenne, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jason. And I just heard you say the word chaotic. And I think that's the best way to describe this scene right here. Just to give you guys some perspective, we're here at Roosevelt Mall. This is right near the Raising Cane's, the Panda food. And just trying to navigate this scene myself, I actually had to have a police officer escort me. And that kind of just speaks to the danger that's in this area. And right now, a lot of people, they have a lot of questions about what exactly happened. But as you just heard the mayor say, the priority right now is people staying safe. And of course, we are working to figure out what exactly caused this crash. But right here behind me, you can see that we are kind of right near ground zero. That home that was on the corner, you can see that it has some damage. It actually was on fire. And just trying to get to the scene, I was going through the neighborhood and a lot of people were asking, what exactly happened? And to be quite honest with you, a lot of people are really afraid because we just saw exactly what happened over in DC on the Potomac River. A lot of people have questions about how does this happen back to back, because the reality of the matter is this is something that doesn't happen often. So a lot of people are on edge. I mean, it was a Friday evening. People were coming home from work. Some people were getting ready to enjoy their weekends. And then something like this happens right in their backyard. And as you said, this is Northeast Philadelphia. Right here, there's a shopping center, there's homes. This is a very active part of our community. So a lot of people, they just really are honestly scared right now, Jason. And officials, as you just heard, they are going to continue to give us some updates about what exactly happened. So as soon as we know more, we'll absolutely make sure that we let you know. But Jason, Dawn, this is just still a very active scene right now, and a lot of people are quite honestly afraid and concerned.
Right, and you can understand why people are frightened. I mean, we've seen ring camera video of people opening their door to come home for the night and all of a sudden hearing an explosion and then looking up into the sky and seeing this ball of fire. What is the mood there, Cheyenne?
It's actually quite eerie. Like I said, when I was on my way to get to the scene, I was walking through the neighborhood and there were a lot of people. I mean, it's just natural for you to step outside your door and you're just wondering exactly what is happening. People are freaked out, for the lack of a better word. And like you just said, like how I found out about this happening, my phone was going off. You know, a lot of my family members in Northeast Philadelphia were reaching out. I was reaching out to them, and that's a lot of what's going on. People are reaching out to their family members to make sure if you live in this area that they are okay. So that's definitely top of priority for people here. And a lot of people are just like, well, what is next? What possibly more could happen? Because we are still very much so on edge after what happened in DC, and it's hard to ignore what just happened, you know, less than 2 days ago. And then this hitting so close to home, it definitely has a lot of people frightened.
I'm curious if you had a chance to speak to any witnesses who saw or heard anything.
I did. I spoke to one guy actually on my way when I was trying to make my way here, and he said that he literally like opened his front door and he said people were saying like, get down, get down, get down. And of course, you know, when you hear get down, you automatically get down. He wasn't sure what they were saying get down for. He wasn't sure if there was a shooting going on, but he was just still shaken up because this is definitely not what he expected. If anything, he expected it to be some type of unfortunate shooting happening in his neighborhood, but he did not expect it to be, you know, a plane crash happening here in Northeast Philadelphia.
Yeah, an explosion, and people reported feeling shaking, a deafening sound, and a fireball that just really engulfed cars and homes in the area, and fire crews doing their best to try to put those out.
Those images, they're just flooding around social media, and it's a lot of people are like, this is like nothing they've seen before. And actually, that police officer who escorted me over here, what she had to say, she said, this is just crazy, you know. And there's a lot of things that police officers see here in Philadelphia. So for a Philly police officer to say this is just crazy, it definitely says something.
Well, and even seasoned journalists, Mark Lavala, Steve Keeley, decades and decades covering news in this city. Even they seem a little perplexed and just dumbfounded by what has just happened in Northeast Philly tonight, and the way this aircraft crashed right on Cotman at rush hour. And so, yeah, it's just, and now so little answers about how everyone's doing, and most importantly, the loss of life here in Northeast Philly as well.
Absolutely. Right, and definitely the loss of life that possibly, you know, could be coming. You know, he's talked about the home there. We know that there was a lot of homes on damage. There's police right now. They're making some type of announcement, probably telling people to clear the area. But definitely the focus is making sure that people are okay and safe. And we know, obviously, there's the NTSB investigation. But right now, again, because of what happened in D.C., their hands are full, but they are continuing to investigate.
I'd like to know what that announcement was, to be honest. I'm curious what.
I think that they were saying for people to clear the area, so you can see that if you want to just show Mark, you can see that officers are coming over because people want to see what's happening. So officers are just making sure that people are, you know, avoiding the area. This shopping center over here, this is a store. They're an electronics store, and they're making sure people stay out of there because there's been people trying to navigate this entire Northeast Philadelphia area. So that's been one of the main jobs also of the police out here, is just making sure people stay as far as possible because this is a hazardous area, guys.
I see all those row homes there, Cheyenne. Are folks allowed to be in there? Are they evacuated? What's the situation with that since it's so close to the crash site?
There are some people that are actually still in their homes, so I'm working to see if there is an exact evacuation order, but we have not received any. And because I was walking through right here, but if you look, you see officers right there walking towards those homes, the back of the homes. I'm not sure exactly what they are going to, but they could possibly be going to, you know, maybe get some people out of their homes. But we definitely see them working in this back alleyway area, and this is the first time that I have seen them focus over here. And also, if you look towards me, there's some fires that are working right here. So it does seem like some of the work is being brought towards this direction. So we'll definitely work to try to figure out. But we did just see those police officers walk towards the back of those homes. So possibly there could be some evacuations or just checking, make sure that people who live so close by are okay.
Yeah, you have to almost go door to door
and
check on everybody.
And we just saw a gurney go by, so, you know, as the mayor said, this is still a really active scene, and police encouraging people to stay away, but it's human nature, especially if you're right in the middle of it all, to see what's going on, because it's frightening and you want to make sure you're safe. You don't know, you look out your window, you see this, you hear this, and you wonder, am I okay?
Another observation here, Cheyenne, the power's out. That street light is out. Looks like that whole block has no power. But if you pan right, Mark, to those row homes, there are lights on in there. So perhaps, I don't know if it's a backup generator or if they have power there. But, you know, crews had to shut off the gas, I think, in this area.
And we saw Pico out there.
Cheyenne, you there? I think we lost Cheyenne's mic, but we still see her shot. But fire crews are still there monitoring the situation. That house that we're looking at right in the middle of your screen was on fire at one point. They still have a ladder up where I believe firefighters went room to room, floor to floor, looking for people in that house. We have no information on who was in there, whether anybody was home. I'm praying nobody was home. And you still see smoldering back beyond that other house too.
And that's the thing, we don't know the situation regarding injuries or casualties on the ground. We know that Jet Rescue Air Ambulance confirms that the plane was headed to Branson National Airport in Missouri, and we're understanding that there were 4 crew members, a passenger, probably a family member, and a pediatric patient. And they are saying that they can't confirm any survivors, but we have no idea the situation on the ground either here in Philadelphia, because we know that houses caught fire, we know cars caught fire. We don't know that car that we saw earlier that was completely burned out. Was anybody in that car? We do know it was an extremely busy time. It was rush hour. It was just after 6:30 in a super busy section of the city when this all happened.
Cheyenne, Mark, can you pan to the left again where that car was charred, where we believe the plane crashed? Can you try to describe the scene for us? It's hard to make out what's going on in there right now, and you can probably see better than we can, Cheyenne.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now there's just, an entire effort to, kind of get this situation under control. You can see right ahead of me, Mark, if you're showing the firefighters that are straight ahead. And then also you can actually see that there's still some smoke coming from that home right there at the corner. But the firefighters, they were able to work pretty quickly to, contain that fire. But what's a big concern in this area, we talked a little bit about this earlier, is that there could be some other things that happen as a result of either the equipment, it's still a very hazardous area. So that's definitely a focus right now for officials. And I know that we just received the update in terms of, it's presumed that there were no survivors on board. And Jason, can you just confirm for me that we also updated the amount of people that were on board as well?
6. That is the medical flight company.
6 people.
Says that 6 were on board. This is according to the company, and that there is no confirmation tonight that any survived.
Right.
So we've had conflicting reports, but
And
that
I
is the
think-
latest.
That is the latest from the
And that's
medical
actually what-
company.
Okay, and that's actually what we were initially reporting. If you remember, we were initially reporting that there were 6 on board, and the FFA said 2, and that kind of, right now there's a lot of questions, but it speaks to exactly, what was, on board, right, of this jet. But definitely 6 people, that is the latest update, and that is what we first reported here. And you can also see, if you go towards the scene really hasn't died down at all, but Mark, can you show the water that the firefighters right now are, the water that the firefighters are right now trying to put out or something? Zoom in right there. Can you see exactly what they are focusing on? Jason, can you see the fire that the firefighters are trying to?
I see. All I see is those firefighters gathered at this point, but
It's hard to-
Okay.
yeah, it's hard to see
Well, far in the
beyond that.
distance, you can see that they're okay. Well, far in the distance, you can see that they really are focused on one particular area here at the scene. But this is just honestly, again, as you said, it's some sort of chaos. There's actually some people that are starting to, come outside, but again, the weather's not the best right now. So I think that, to a degree, that's kind of helping some people stay inside. But in between, when you came to me last, I went back on social media, and people definitely are, shocked, especially hearing that update that there were 6 people on board. And now, there's a question of, what exactly was happening, where we know they were headed to Missouri, what was actually on board. So there's all of those questions. But right now, we see officials, again, I think these are fire officials. Hello, how are you? Fire officials making their way back to the scene, and that's really the focus here.
all right. Let's keep your shot up here. I just Dawn kind of read the statement earlier, but it's from Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. That's who owned the plane and operated the plane, and they said it at 6:25 tonight. Jet Rescue Air Ambulance experienced a crash. There were 4 crew members and 2 passengers, including a pediatric patient and an escort. You have to assume a child and a parent.
Right.
It's
And they were headed to Springfield Branson National Airport. That is in Missouri. And Steve Keeley showed us earlier an oxygen tank with the company's name on it that presumably is part of this massive wreckage that has been just strewn across blocks and blocks of this area at Roosevelt Mall. Roosevelt Boulevard is closed. There is a sea.
You can see that fire department snorkel sticking up off the fire truck, and that snorkel reaching over to that housing area probably because there's smoke coming from there, and you can see smoke coming from there. That snorkel's probably trying to put out a fire over there.
Wilson also reporting that people may be displaced, which would not surprise me at all with some of these homes that caught fire. And so, I don't know where they're going to go tonight. I'm sure people will step up and help them. Again.
And the mayor confirming too, when you talk about people displaced, that homes and vehicles were impacted.
Absolutely.
And we've seen the videos, so we know they were on fire. So, and also, Jason, as was earlier in the evening, Steve was just talking about like the thick smoke, like billowing into the sky, and people living in, working in those areas were just driving.
Okay, they were talking about the thick smoke that was billowing into the sky. Just a few minutes ago, they showed the great big huge fireball as a result of the plane going down. Again, it was a Learjet 55, a medical jet, transportation jet, 6 passengers on board, 2 pilots, probably a pediatric nurse and a doctor, and the pediatric patient, and probably a family member. 6 people on board the aircraft. There's also untold people injuries on the ground. Okay, that's what's going on. Okay, that's what's happening. Again, this accident happened in Philadelphia, near a Philadelphia mall. The aircraft went down minutes after takeoff. It was headed for Branson, Missouri. Okay. Now, I don't think we're going to get much else out of this report, so I'm going to cut away from it. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I believe right now we have 45 people still here with us. We've got 66 people that have given us thumbs up. Before you leave tonight, please give us a thumbs up and let us know what you think. Also, please, below this video, after we shut down, below this video in the comments, we'd appreciate any comments that you might have for us regarding this broadcast. Originally, we're going to talk about earthquakes that happened, which we did, both in the United States and also in South America and down in South Pacific. USBS never shows us earthquakes in Europe. I was going to show you some of those until this happened. We're also going to talk about preparedness. Today is usually Preparedness Friday. But as a result of this accident, I wanted to show you this because I believe it's important. Another aircraft accident just 2 days after the incident in Washington, D.C. And again, the helicopter flew into the side of the passenger aircraft in Washington, D.C., and they both plummeted into the Potomac River. I showed you a rescue boat there in the river earlier with parts of the aircraft plane sticking up in the air. Again, it's very frigid water temperatures in Washington, D.C. at this time. It's only going to get worse because they have a cold front coming in, and the air temperatures were just above freezing, and the water temperatures were also just above freezing, and now it's going to go very cold. So there's been divers in the water doing a spectacular job. And now what is going on is there's still people in the water inside the plane. There's been 27 people rescued so far, no survivors. 27 people in the aircraft taken out of both the plane and the helicopter. 2 people from the helicopter taken out and 25 other people from the aircraft. That's all. Now, we were told earlier today that they're going to have to take a winch, a great big huge winch, and get the plane out of the water before they can rescue the other inhabitants of the aircraft. That's what they're going to have to do. Now, whether that's going to happen this weekend, I hope it does. I hope they get a great big huge crane in there and lift that wreckage out of the water, both the helicopter and the plane. Again, the plane was cut in half. 2 parts of the fuselage came apart. They've taken 27 people from the water, no survivors. 27 people from the water, no
Right now,
survivors.
the scene, it honestly has remained the same, as you just said, Jason. I mean, we're now in hour 3, and this scene, it hasn't calmed down, or we haven't seen less of a police and fire presence since we got here on scene. That means that there definitely is still, you know, a lot going on behind me. You can just see based on the amount of flashing lights that are out here. Since I've been out here, I've also been trying to, you know, check social media. As you heard my coworker, Shawnette, she's checking on those who are displaced, because obviously, you know, it's so close to homes here in Northeast Philadelphia that there are people displaced. We at least know that that home at the corner, those people, there's no way that they are still inside of their home. And actually, since you came to me, I haven't seen too many people in these homes right here come outside or even poke their heads outside. So we don't know if possibly those officers were telling people to, you know, stay inside or possibly leave. But I do know people personally who live in this area, and just out of caution, which is probably a good idea, they are just evacuating the area. So although we haven't heard any official evacuation orders, a lot of people are just getting out of this area. And that's really what Mayor Sherrell Parker was focused on, was people staying safe. As you said, there's a lot of debris on this wet ground here in Northeast Philadelphia, and officials are telling people to not touch it. If you see something, call it in. Because as you saw, my coworker, Steve Keeley, he saw a really critical, crucial piece of that jet on the ground. So if you see something like that, do not touch it and just call it in. Right now, as you said, this is just going to be, it's going to take some time to really get to the bottom of this. I can't imagine that Northeast Philadelphia is going to be the same anytime soon. I can imagine that this is probably going to be closed off for quite some time. We're going to be out here until it isn't at this point, but there's just a lot of people in the neighborhood that are on edge. We're not expecting something like this to happen. And again, we keep going back to the fact that just 2 days ago, we lost 67 people in the Potomac River due to a plane crash. And then 2 days later, about 2.5 hours away here in Northeast Philadelphia, we now have a plane suddenly come down, crash in the neighborhood, and, you know, it's not looking good. So a lot of people are on edge. Right now, you know, we're trying to get more answers for people, trying to get, you know, some type of clarity about how this could possibly happen. But people are just really on edge about what exactly happened here, Jason.
Yeah, it's just still so shocking.
Yes, it's still shocking. Guys, I'm going to break this telecast from Philadelphia. I don't believe we're going to hear any more tonight than we've already heard. By tomorrow, we probably will. If there's anything else major happen, we'll be back here on the air tonight or in the morning to let you know what's going on. Again, we talked about earthquakes before, both in California, up and down the West Coast. We talked about the big earthquake over in Ecuador. We talked about the earthquakes down in the South Pacific. Then we talked about Washington, the plane crash in Washington, D.C., and what was going on there. Then we got the call from Rebecca that broke in and told us what happened here in Philadelphia. And tonight, with another plane crash with 6 people on board, 2 pilots, 2 medical personnel, probably a doctor and a flight nurse, and then the pediatric patient and a parent, we believe. That's the story from Philadelphia tonight. We hope everybody has had a rather, I can't say good time here tonight, because this isn't good news at all. Okay? This is hard. This is hard news. And yes, we covered the hard news. We talk about disasters and emergencies when they happen, and we talk about preparedness. Again, we're going to talk about preparedness another time. I want to thank everybody that's been here tonight for our broadcast. I want to thank everybody that's sent us and given us information. We appreciate that so much. May God bless you all. God bless you all, and thank you for your participation. Please, if you want to help support this program, please, after we get off the air, just below this program tonight, there's a program description. Within 5 minutes after we get off the air, I'll put information in the program description, both our email address. I'll also put information how you can be a member of our EMA family here on YouTube. We'll also show you our local address, 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code here is 28655. We're also going to give you 2 PayPal addresses and a Venmo. You can send your contributions to our PayPal and our Venmo, and also you can send us cards and letters to our post office box. And in those cards and letters in the middle, you can put a check or cash in there that'll get to us to help support this program. We greatly appreciate it. May God bless you all. Thank you for being here. God be with you until we can meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Thank you all, guys. I love you very much. Heidi, thank you so much as well. Good night. Thanks, Don.